Listen up, Gotham. This is Batman. Tune into the Bat Fan Addict podcast with Sammy Warm Hands. And if you don't, I'll be coming for you.
Hey everybody, it's the Dark Knight of Rap, Sammy Warm Hands, and this is the Bat Fan Addict podcast. Now, don't get it twisted. When you click this title, we're going to talk about the animated adaptation. Because we switch between one movie, one comic. One movie, one comic. All right, so that's what we're talking about today. It's cartoons. Got to shout out our sponsor, Radar Toys. You can go to radartoys.com and get free shipping in the U.S. and save 10% using the code BATFANPOD. BATFANPOD. All right? Now, we're going to dive into a pretty great retelling of the Frank Miller classic. We got Peter Weller of RoboCop fame taking the mantle of the Bat. This is The Dark Knight Returns. All right, let's do the show. Ben Polanski.
Hello, my name is Ben Polanski.
Evan.
Hi, I'm Evan Edward Vaught.
All right, we did it this time. This is The Dark Knight Returns, the film version. This is directed by Jay Oliva, written by Bob Goodman, though pretty much word for word Frank Miller. Starring Peter Weller, Ariel Winter as Carrie, our new Robin, David Selby as Gordon, Wade Williams returns, this time as Harvey Dent, Michael Emerson as the Joker, Gary Anthony Williams as the mutant leader, and Mark Valley as Superman. This was, once again, like the last film, The Red Hood, Under the Red Hood, I should say, was composed by Christopher Drake. That's the cast. All right. We open with Bruce on a racetrack, recklessly crashing his car.
Jay's not even concerned.
No.
He doesn't care. He's just looking for that thrill.
Yeah.
He lives dangerous like Ben lives right now. Visiting restaurants, driving quickly on racetracks.
Yeah, same thing, basically. But I also duck out at the last moment. Right when I see the coronavirus coming towards me,
Then I hit the ejector button.
Yeah.
Oh, when you see it coming towards you, yeah, that's when you put it in your to-go box and take it home.
Yeah,
I have to go.
Boop.
Is it I have to go or is I have to go?
I have to go.
Yes.
I won't be sitting.
That's awesome.
So we get Gordon sitting down with Bruce, having a little heart-to-heart, and then we get our first glimpse of the mutant gang trying to mug him on his way home, which is a nice little scene.
He wants it.
This is a man who's starved for action.
Yeah, they kind of comment on it, but he is, especially this version of Batman.
Like spuds
he's like
into
9
it.
feet tall.
Yeah.
He's bigger than the two of them put together.
Yeah, he's wider shoulder to shoulder than people are tall.
That's funny if you were to like turn Carrie Kelly on her side, you know?
Still not a full Batman.
No, she'd fit, and that's including her huge pompadour hair.
Oh, man.
I liked that to take Frank Miller's stuff, or at least in this case, like Batman's stature, and to draw it differently is cool to me, because that's one thing that the animated stuff always ends up putting that like new Bruce Timm twist on stuff. And obviously this isn't Frank Miller's squiggle lines and all that weirdness, but I do think that he created a cool looking Batman with his like super thighs and super calves, and he's a real tube man.
Yeah, I think that I have so many mixed feelings about Frank, and kind of like you said, like crazy.
Yeah.
You know, his crazy sketchy style, you know, and like the way that I think of it is like he has kind of caveman style, you know, in that it works so good for some things and then so wrong for other things, and like they're iconic designs. I mean, he's such a visionary, you know.
Yeah.
I think he's one of those guys that, I mean, we let him basically, we're watching the animated version here. And then in our next show, you know, we're going to talk about year one where he's just the writer. But when you let this guy just write, aside from All-Star or certain moments, I mean, he really paints a picture, you know, like, and you can still use all those grim elements and stuff that he envisioned without necessarily having to be his crazy drawings all the time. No.
His style is interesting. It's certainly unique, and it's really identifiable. That treatment suits some characters way better than other ones.
Yeah.
You know, he could do like a good Punisher, or the way that Bruce and Batman look in this is like how I picture Wolverine all the time.
Yeah.
You know, like very thick and very squatty kind of. But you can't apply that same thing to like every single, like you could draw.
He does, and then you get like Wonder Woman, who also
Yeah. Like, why is she so wrinkly? What is going on? You know, like Spider-Man is supposed to be limber and flexible. You can't draw him all lumpy. That's weird.
Yeah, like blocky and weird.
Yeah, like just draw the Thing all the time. You're perfect.
Yeah.
I love this version of Batman. The proportions of a Frank Miller character.
Yeah.
The only real negative I have to say about it is that it makes it even less likely that as soon as he started being Batman, someone didn't go, "Oh yeah, that's Bruce Wayne. He's 6'8". He's gigantic. There's only one guy who could possibly be all of these things.
No one
That's
else
true.
is shaped like this. It's obvious.
No one else is shaped like. Yeah, you could drape a cape over it, but like that's just like putting a tablecloth over a car. You know, like it's like
You still get the outline.
yeah. Still tell that's a truck. Let's see what else we got. We go into the cave. We see Jason's suit in the cave.
In the book, that hasn't been written yet, so
I thought that was
not in there.
interesting because of timeline. Like we've been talking so much about timeline in the 80s that I saw that and was like, that's retroactive.
And I like that. I think there's a lot of later Batman canon that they worked into this adaptation that I like a lot.
Yeah.
Because it is one of the most interesting things about Batman, as I've said many times, that he lost.
You know, I was going to talk to you about that. You say the same shit a lot.
I know. You know, the important points stand. And also, I don't have to think of as much stuff to say.
We have
saying the same thing.
we have Ben Edgelord.
Joker halfway through this movie.
Wait, we were saying it in unison. I was gonna say we have Ben Edgelord Joker Polanski, and you actually said Edgelord Joker at the same time as me. That's funny.
Are the mutants actually mutants in this, or are they just like weird people?
They're just young people.
Well, the guy is, but beyond that, they're just followers, you know.
But I don't
he's
think
kind of a weird.
I think he's just huge, and he has filed down teeth. But I think he's still just a man.
Huh. So he just did that shit in some back room dentistry office?
Yeah, I mean, people do that in real life.
Same place that Jack Napier went for his, cosmetic surgery.
The guy pulled out the big corkscrew.
Yeah. This is some of my best work.
You see what I have to work with here.
Really sharp teeth.
So as we're setting the scene, we get two notable characters kind of as an aside. We see that Joker is basically a vegetable, is being fed and medicated at the psychiatric hospital. And then we see Dent has his sort of mirror, reveal where he is actually healed. He got plastic surgery. And actually, this guy does say it's some of my finest work, like, and both sides are the same. That's obviously.
You look like Evan Vaught. You're beautiful. You've recuperated. Hit the streets.
He's like, fucking A, I think I should join a rap group.
Damn, you look good, dude. I'm about to kiss your mouth.
Well, and I like that they get to it right away with that. So when they show him in the hospital, do they then immediately cut to the news footage of him at a press conference? Or is there a little bit in between that? It seems like it's pretty quick to the point where he's healed and then he disappears.
I don't think that happens right away because then it cuts to, Batman is like back up on the streets. Yeah. Here it is. So, Batman is back on the streets, kind of swooping in on gangs that we're not expecting to be found, and then shortly after is when Batman has to stop Two-Face. And so it's like right in this same little opening montage that he has that public meltdown moment. But it's kind of great though. I mean, just the idea of like, okay, we've healed you, and he doesn't believe it. Like he still sees, oh well, so I'm fucked up on both sides then.
Oh man,
I mean
that's one of my favorite things about this book. And I'm still open to the idea that maybe we just misinterpreted All-Star Batman. We read it with the wrong mindset, that the whole thing is just one big joke.
Satire?
About Batman. And
I don't know.
Because, this version of it I love because it starts out and it's like, it's totally steeped in the 80s when it was written.
Yeah.
With like the fears of people and what people wanted from comic books and the reflection on what like comic book characters and heroes started as versus what they would be in that 80s society.
I mean, this is sort of, to speak on another Frank Miller property, this is sort of RoboCop Batman. If you think of the first one and the social commentary wrapped in that and just the tone of it, it's very much that vibe.
Well, and my favorite thing is that, so as you're just reading the beginning, it's like he's huge and he's way more brutal than most other versions of Batman.
Yeah.
Like that but he's still like, he won't cross the line of killing, but he'll do basically everything up to that point, like paralyzing people. He's just extreme.
He doesn't give a fuck.
No, he doesn't care at all. And it is because of, he's like, he's 60. He's just over it all, but he still wants to be Batman because of his own messed up thing.
Yeah. He's like, I miss hurting people. I miss the sound of a bone breaking in my hands.
So bored.
Well, and that's a lot of that's in the book and not really in this, which is probably an improvement. But I still get that from this version of the character.
Yeah.
But I like as the story goes on, it's not just super buff guy beats up criminals, outside the law, because eventually he ends up fighting the cops and fighting Superman and basically by extension fighting Ronald Reagan. It's a commentary on the whole thing, but it doesn't feel like he's really picking sides. He's just they go after everything.
Yeah.
The whole idea that they're making fun of the psychiatrist and everyone just psychoanalyzing everything, and they all sound kind of dumb about it.
Yeah.
But a big chunk of this book is a legitimate look at Batman's psychology and the psychology of the villains, truly. Like, as you're saying, that Harvey sees himself now as just completely messed up. Yeah. Because really the problem's on the inside, not on the outside. So as much as they make fun of the psychology of analyzing comic book characters, that's the whole book.
I like that they proposed that Two-Face getting his face burned or whatever this origin is, it wasn't actually the catalyst for like the reemergence of this like other part of his psyche, that it just existed the whole time, and he was he must have just been schizophrenic or something, and then this accident is what like really sent it over the edge. Like, no, this just shows that it was there the whole time, and then the thought that these people were healing him and it was actually doing the exact opposite of what they wanted, and it had more to do with just the way that he saw himself anyways. Like, the scars weren't really, that was just superficial or didn't really matter to him anyways.
Yeah.
Now he envisions himself as, and the way that he's depicted in this, it's, you only see, you have your talking head news clip picture, like one time, like, this is past Two-Face, the villain, and then when they have that scene and Harvey's talking about like, no, both sides match, and this version of him just looks like he just has like maggots on his face. He doesn't look like he's a burned dude. He just looks like he has a rotting face. It's disgusting.
Well, and yesterday I watched Warner's put up on their YouTube channel this great full-length documentary about the animated series called Heart of Batman. Mm-hmm. It's really, really good, and they touched on the Two-Face episode when they're talking about all their villain redesigns and backstories and stuff and what they were trying to do with them, and they talk
Harvey,
about
no.
Well, yeah, they talk about that scene when he's first revealed to his fiance, and they were screening it for an audience at a convention. I forget which one of the creators was speaking on it, but he was like, they cut to that shot and people gasped. He's like, I heard a woman full on just weeping in the crowd. He's like, we tried to give these people like Shakespearean level like backgrounds and make them really truly sympathetic characters and not just some like Scooby-Doo villain. And that's one of the great things about Two-Face. I don't think he's maybe the most utilized character, but much like Bruce himself, he has such a great psychological baggage that he brings with him everywhere.
That's a lot of stories overlook that, as they do with a lot of the villains anyway, because they just use them as like weird guy with half a face that's weird, or crazy clown man. Like, a lot of them look over that stuff. But yeah, that's exactly what makes him so interesting, is that he's got a split personality like Batman.
Yeah.
In this part, he sounds really sad too. He sounds like genuinely shook up and really conflicted too when he's having this. You know, he's down on the ground. He's pretty much on his knees. He sounds like he's having a really rough time.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine a late era Two-Face being anything but a very broken man.
Yeah, for sure. He'd really be struggling, I'm sure. Do you think that this visually was like the inspiration for Hush? Like when he comes back around and he's just all bandage face?
Oh, yeah, I caught that, actually.
It would be hard not to at least see some connection there.
Yeah.
I mean, because you could be like, well, the Mummy was inspiration for Hush. But in this case, he's wearing a trench coat and has bandages on his face.
Well, yeah, the whole idea is that you can't see.
That's pretty straightforward.
So you're wondering, like, what he looks like, and Batman comments on that, like, oh, I know he must be self-harming. I wonder what he did to his face.
Yeah. And then he looks
Hush is the kind of same thing.
normal. Yeah, I think that if I'm remembering right, though, Harvey was a big red herring in that story.
In Hush.
Yeah, I thought he was. Either that or maybe they end up using him in the animated adaptation. I forget. But yeah, there's definitely a strong connective tissue there.
Anyone who writes Batman has read The Dark Knight Returns, so everyone is familiar with that imagery.
Yeah.
For sure.
There's a great scene where Gordon is at a convenience store. Actually, there's a little Easter egg there. There's a Swamp Thing comic on the rack.
Oh, yeah, I
and
saw
then
that.
when they show it again, it's a wider shot, and there's V for Vendetta up there, too, on the newsstand.
Yeah, there's multiple. There's
There's-
Watchmen, Swamp
Yeah.
Thing, Sandman, and V for Vendetta that I
Nice.
could recognize.
Like, we like Alan Moore.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, shouldn't they have been, like, Frank's titles? That's kind of funny. They're like, man, we're working on this classic, but do you know who's even better? Like,
No, it's just All-Star Batman, issue 1.
hey,
The
the,
sweet back tattoo.
I mean, the other covers were pretty good, though. Of like Batman and Robin swooping in, you know, on the All-Star issues. Those were pretty good covers.
Better than the Joker with a dragon on his back?
Yes.
Huh.
Unquestionably.
Debatable.
In that same way where, like, watching this made me think that we just completely had the wrong mindset. Again, reading All-Star Batman and Robin. Frank called me up and he was really disappointed, so I took another look. But that, like, when I think of, even though we hardly see that Joker do anything because they never went further with the story, like, how much is the Joker in this different from that Joker? It seems like the main difference is that we see this one do stuff.
We're skipping ahead to the part 2 of the
Well, we can hold it back.
the
Chew on
films
that
here,
for a
but
minute,
I
then
mean,
we'll- yeah.
but yeah, I mean, this Joker is so much setup, and I don't want to say very little payoff because it's obviously like an iconic couple of scenes that have been very influential, but it was such a small part in the grand story, you know, that I also don't feel like we get to know him super well. I have other things I want to get on once we get that far, but I don't fully understand his motivations going into his story arc.
I think he only exists as a foil and reflection of Batman.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Which is,
what's-
I mean, in the story, it's like he doesn't exist until Batman comes back.
yeah. I think
And
that's
the whole
great.
thing only serves to me to sort of be what could be the jump-off point in a different story or a different set of comics, or like Gotham's new history. You know, Batman's been gone. Batman comes back. He squashes these guys, takes out this dude, gets the ball rolling on some other stuff, and trains a bunch of dudes with painted faces. And so it's like the beginning of a story that could be another story. And it feels kind of weird to have the Joker be so short lasting, you know, just like some rando character for a couple issues.
I mean, it's kind of like Harvey was used in the same way, honestly.
Yeah. I think it's more like he knows that we know who these characters are, so if you throw this on the end of all of Batman's history, it's one big story.
Yeah.
This being the end of it, not a random one shot. This isn't. This is like hardly even a reemergence of these characters. It's just like, this gets going again because Gotham needs it. He gets his stuff going, but he takes out this other dude and then passes the torch to all these other people.
Yeah, I mean, what's kind of great about it is this, just on its own, if you ignore Strikes Again and Master Race or Batman Beyond, if you just read this by itself, because at the time it was written, none of those things existed. Mm-hmm. It's kind of the perfect ending. Maybe it's not a perfect story, but it's kind of the perfect ending if you just think about, like, man, how would this play out, after all this time? Like what would happen in this world? And he was just like, well, they'd fucking go out with a bang.
Yeah, for sure. He'd actually kill this dude and then stop doing stuff again.
In that same way that I was saying that, like, I like how who they go after in terms of the story is not as predictable as you think. It's not just him brutalizing criminals.
Yeah.
I like that the whole point of the story is him showing the people that they can do something on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then that having the end be empowering other people.
Yeah. Well, I guess we're done then. So,
I really like, too, that this just shows another aspect of Batman and Joker's relationship. How as soon as Batman's non-existent anymore, and I wonder why he even really stopped doing stuff in the first place. But then all of a sudden Joker's just like so bored that he just has to not talk to anybody anymore. He's like, yeah, I'm cool to get locked up. I don't have anything to do anymore. If this guy's not active, then I'm not active. That's how much I love him.
In the commentary of the book, when these silly doctors, talking about how Batman's the cause of all these people, and you're supposed to think like he's kind of an idiot,
mm-hmm.
but he is the cause of all these people, or at least some of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joker doesn't have anything to do if his buddy's not around.
Yeah, his love. I mean, there's a little bit of like the love stuff that they toned down from the book, but
mm-hmm.
he's definitely in love with Batman.
Yeah, for sure. Which came first, don't know. Batman has less to do if Joker's not around, but Joker doesn't have anything to do if Batman's not around, so they're racing cars and sitting in insane asylums.
Yeah, you could definitely see where Sean Murphy jumped off with his Joker,
Mm.
Totally.
So I want to go back to that scene, though.
I would like to jump to Dark Knight, the next book, if we can just jump past all this and go to the next book.
All right, so now we're doing Strikes Again.
This is Sparta!
And it's just 75% talking heads.
In crazy colors and very, very weirdly composed pages.
Yeah. It looks like if you're reading a comic without your glasses on.
It's a wild ride.
All right, fuck you. Back to the story. I really like the scene at the convenience store because of what they do off camera. I think that it's easy to show us a standoff. We see the gang spots Gordon inside and that he's armed and that Gordon's not ready. And so immediately cut to the outside. We hear a gunshot. We don't see anything. And then they cut to the news. And the lady's like, oh, this just in. Commissioner Gordon has been shot by a mutant gang. Wait, no, Commissioner Gordon has shot a mutant gang member.
You really have to watch your wording of those things.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine, though, like someone who works on live TV and they just hand you some handwritten shit and you're like, what the fuck is... my bad.
I think that's the beginning of multiple like fake outs where you think something bad is going to happen to Gordon. And it's just like, nope, something bad's going to happen to everyone else.
Yeah.
It's not him.
Yeah, and then when he writes year one, we realize, oh, he loves Gordon. He wouldn't do that to him. So we get the, this is my note. It says, Batman ambushes the mutant rally with a tank. In parentheses, God, I love the 80s.
Yeah, it's humongous.
This
I
whole
like that thing. It's gigantic.
This whole scene is kind of like when we did the TMNT crossover episode, and there's this humongous, crazy action piece, and you're like, wait, we're only like halfway through the movie. You know, it's like this is such an epic like finale kind of showdown, and it's like the first third of the story.
Yeah.
You know, it's fucking great, and it's the goddamn grenades, and you know, he electrocutes all the dudes on the roof of the.
I think a lot of those guys died.
Oh,
which
yeah.
Some of it is in line with this Batman.
Yeah.
Like, as long as I didn't kill him, it's okay.
It's
If they
funny
kill
because it's like
themselves.
rubber bullets, you know. But like,
Well, instead of a cannon.
yeah, but also like there are real explosions and real electrocutions, and
He's shooting some of the real explosives at them.
and also
Those rubber bullets seem to be exploding themselves.
Well-
actually.
well, and also like we've seen at these protests what rubber bullets shot directly at motherfuckers really do. You
From
know,
a normal size gun.
Yeah, not a cannon.
Yeah.
Mounted on a tank.
Not
Yeah.
from a bat cannon.
that I feel like is an easy way for someone who has never thought about it. Probably the first time I read that book, I thought, "Oh, rubber bullets, you know, no,
They're all
like
safe.
they're fine."
Word.
You know, it was like, no, a lot of these motherfuckers are now missing eyes and teeth, and you know,
Yeah.
But
He's
still,
not.
this Batman, I'm sure he's like, well, they're not dead, so they'll live.
probably.
They couldn't get any uglier, anyways. Plus, a lot of these dudes have spikes mounted to their heads. Like, if you got shocked by something, it would just conduct in your metal parts and hurt you even more.
Well, there's
That's
that
true.
first guy that he fights when he's saving Carrie Kelly in the arcade, and he
The
throws him up
neons,
in.
yeah,
and
that's
it
so
seems
awesome.
like he was electrocuted, to death. Not shocked, but electrocuted.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's how I interpreted it.
Yeah, but I don't think he was in terms of story.
hey, whatever you got to tell yourself. I personally, I don't care. That doesn't make or break it for me. I like a brutal Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that this is a brutal Batman who also makes the point of not killing people and talking about it.
Most of the time.
Most of yeah. Sometimes you're like,
He's
can't save them all.
He's not narrating every single thing he does. I shot that guy with a rubber bullet with 300 pounds of force. Shocked.
I knew that
12,000
neon sign
volts.
was only powered with only 800 volts, not 1,000. So
Yeah, but he got mercury poisoning.
from the neon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
he'll live.
the mutant design in this is so iconic
Yeah.
to me. The whole red line visor thing, that's so cool. And it really
Cyclops.
lends itself to silhouetted shots where it's just black outlines and just red lines and stuff. That's so cool.
Anytime they have their threats on the news, where it's just
Yeah.
the visors.
Just a visor
Yeah.
line. That's so cool.
I love
Yeah.
them as a villain because they stand for nothing.
Yeah.
They're completely violent. They don't care, like, if they get hurt. They don't want to get hurt, but they don't care. And they're a great first act villain for this Batman because they're purely physical.
Which
Especially the leader.
again, just a perfect like 80s depiction of crime. You
Yeah.
know?
And yeah, how people looked at, like, especially youth crime, like, oh, they're just violent. There's nothing behind it. They're just, as if, criminals do fucked up shit, but there's usually a line you can trace to how they got there.
Well, it's
But
like,
this-
what were we
how
just
they see
saying
them.
about Harvey Dent? What were we just saying about the Joker, and like the psychology there? And yet, in this same story, we have these people with no motive other than just fuck shit up, slice and dice.
But
Yeah.
Batman does not, he hurts a lot of them very badly, but he doesn't, like, defeat them and throw them away. He gives them something to believe in and something to work for.
Yeah.
That's what I mean when I just like that it switches what you would expect it to be. These pointless. They kidnapped kids and killed them, but he's still like, well, but some of them are okay. I just got to take them on a Boy Scout trip. And
Yeah.
Got to, like, climb mountains and stuff, and then we're good.
You know,
They just
it's-
need structure and discipline.
I just got to make him eat some rats, and then it'll be perfect.
yeah, but then you have like the ones you couldn't save that run off to Bruno Nazi tits.
Yeah.
You know,
They're still bad.
it's like when Bernie lost the primary, and then some of his followers voted for 45. And you're like, how the fuck did? All right, sure, whatever.
Yeah, they just needed something
It'd be hard
boisterous
to
person to tell them what to do.
Yep.
be hard to not be enticed by that woman anyway. So they're sweet monster jugs.
I don't know. I'm not really a fan
yeah,
of the fake ones. They're just like they look like fully inflated balloons.
Yeah, oh, that's great.
No.
Yeah, they look like
No.
half of a kid's soccer ball or something. The other thing I like about the mutants is that he made sort of this cartoon subculture in the kind of like the Warriors or like the Droogs in Clockwork Orange, where they have for some it's just a totally different subculture of really bored youth who don't know what to do except like destroy stuff, but they all have their like they created their own language. It's cool.
Yeah, and I like that because in that same way of like it's not judgmental in the sense that so all the gangs they all talk in that way, like man they don't shiv, it's like the pipe or whatever all that stuff. It's not just the bad ones that say that, because Carrie Kelly and her friends at school they all talk like that too.
Yeah,
it's just like that's how young people talk in this world. Mm-hmm. It's not just like oh man those criminals and the way they talk that's bad.
That's actually the only con I had for this whole thing is I hate the made up slang. Oh God.
It's better in text because when you have these actors, you have actors repeating fake made up youth dialogue from 30 years ago. Yeah. And not like it doesn't seem like their hearts are fully in it. So it doesn't come across super well. But when you read it, it's just supposed to be a placeholder for like
I mean, should they have updated it? Now that it is 30 years later, should they have updated it with just like, fucking on fleek and dumb shit like that? Like
no,
like oh yeah, come to the pipe. It's gonna be lit.
No, I mean, regardless, it's supposed to be the future. Anyways, he's making something that we wouldn't even encounter for another who knows how many years. So you can't transplant it with.
It's supposed to be weird and alien to us.
Yeah.
It's just also not sold all the way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible that the stuff that this book exists in what would be current times right now, and none of those kids are saying lit or dope. Like, the mutants don't talk like the kids talk back.
Yeah, it's lit, man.
Yeah. Regardless, I think they would just never talk how anybody ever talks. It's just, whatever it is, it has to be made up.
Yeah.
And if you don't like slice and dice, you just don't like slice and dice.
Yeah, not once does Batman go, oh, these kids, don't say slice and dice, speak the Queen's English. Like, there's no commentary on it.
Bam, rubber bullets!
Well, and we see more of that. I mean, it seems like the way they talk in Batman Beyond comes from this a little bit. They all have their own youth slang, which I don't remember, but I know it's a bunch of weird made-up stuff also.
Huh. I haven't seen too much of that, so it doesn't ring a bell.
Have you guys ever seen the beginning of Samurai Jack? Like when he first goes into the future?
No.
Yes.
He encounters these three characters that just do this whole like super jive talk, just this future jive talk. It's kind of like that.
He's like a white guy in his 40s.
Yeah. It's not like they were shooting for something. It's freaking the same. It's the same dude who made Dexter's Laboratory.
Yeah. No, I love Samurai Jack.
It's a fucking cartoon. And
it's just a punk band. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Hanging out by the dump.
So when Batman gets his ass handed to him by the mutant leader, I noticed that he grabs a crowbar in the scrapyard there. And I was like, oh shit, was that in the original book? Because this was prior to A Death in the Family. And I was like, oh, that's actually kind of a similar shot to him getting the royal shit kicked out of him as what we got like a year later.
Book?
I don't know. I actually don't have those books anymore. I don't know.
I have them like right over there.
I've never read it.
But yeah, it crossed my mind.
Well, because we talked about, and Evan, you had pointed out like how brutal it is for a person to be hit with a piece of metal over and over.
Yeah.
And how in a Death in the Family, it's all discretion. Like you don't see any of it. In this, it was just like everything else, extremely brutal because it's a super flat shot. He's just standing over him. He's just hitting him repeatedly in the side. And it just.
And the only thing that makes them slightly less destructive is that both of these guys are so thick. They don't have Jason's little boy bones.
They have more muscle than anything else.
Yeah, so they'd be able to like take some more of the impact without, fracturing their forearms and stuff.
That's true, but I mean, he gets fucked up. Yeah, he gets real fucked up.
Yeah,
I like that in their first fight. That, I mean, really the only way he even escapes is that Carrie just blinds the dude, you know?
For sure.
Like, there was no swooping in and, oh, I got this last move or whatever. And as I was trying to put together, like, my Easter eggs list, I thought, you know, the two fights are very much like the Bane fights in The Dark Knight Rises, you know, like the way this plays out, that when they go hand to hand, if you remove all the tank stuff and just have that hand to hand scene in the scrapyard, I mean, it is merciless. He was unprepared. He was out of shape, and
he underestimated his opponent
big time. And
sure.
and he's just like pure pride, like I have to know, you know. And it's the same thing of, like, you know, their conversation over the radio. You know, Alfred going like, "Look at him! He's in his prime. You can't." You know, it's the same shit of Michael Caine Alfred watching the playback footage from the stock market going,
"Listen to that accent. You don't stand a chance."
He talks weird. He's going to kick your butt.
He's like, "Look at this force, this training. I see Ra's al Ghul incarnate or reincarnated or whatever. You know, I see the League of Shadows." You know, it's that same sort of conversation. I was like, "Oh, that's pretty neat." And then when they throw down again at the end and you get the mud pit scene, it was very much like when he comes back at the end of Dark Knight Rises and the tables have turned. Really nothing has changed. It's still the same two guys fighting hand to hand, but the mentality, the preparedness, you know, the ego check, you know, has all shifted.
So I definitely think Christopher Nolan took a lot from Dark Knight Returns, for not just for this, but also for Dark Knight. Just he leaned on the book a lot in a good way.
Yeah.
But in this story, in The Dark Knight Returns, the first fight with the mutant leader and then the second fight, I think is set up really well and paid off really well.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas that Dark Knight Rises one, I don't think is. Because, like, Batman comes out of retirement.
The payoff of the rematch is totally different. Because, I mean, that one sort of does have Catwoman swoop in like Carrie Kelly swoops in the first fight. So, I mean, it's a totally different thing.
The only thing that changed between the first Bane fight and the second Bane fight is that Batman had his back broken.
Yeah.
Like, and then he just goes in and fights him again hand to hand. It's just, where in this, like, he wants to fight the mutant leader hand to hand to prove to himself that he's still capable.
Yeah. Because
again, that's the big thing of who Batman is. It's not just that he's smart and he's skilled, it's that he is physically superior.
Yeah.
In terms of his skill and his ability to fight people. That's why he can fight a group of people that a whole army couldn't take down.
It's not that I'm rich and I'm better than you. It's I'm rich and I'm bigger than you too.
And I practice punching people a lot and dodging, jumping, all that. But so he has the first fight, and he is not what he once was. He cannot take this guy in a regular matchup.
Yeah.
But so he goes. He has his little naked jaunt in the cave to see the hallucinatory bat come at him and pump him up and get him psyched.
Gotta get naked.
Yeah, gotta get naked. You gotta connect with nature.
See, that must be where Lee Bermejo got it.
Oh, the nudity. Okay, right.
Yeah.
The bat dick.
We didn't get to see it.
But so when he goes to fight him the second time, it's not just like, now I have tricks up my sleeve. It's just, I'm just going to even the playing field a little bit.
Yep.
But I'm still the superior fighter. I just need to level it a little bit and use my brain to the advantage in this situation. But it's still, I am a better fighter than this guy. Last time I just didn't think it through. I didn't plan. I underestimated him.
Yeah.
But I can still take down a giant human in a fight if I have to. And it's not just that. It's that I am as brutal as him or more brutal. That same thing of like, he can be a monster just like them.
Yeah, and I think that is, in my notes here I wrote, greatest Batman line ever? You don't get it, son. This isn't a mud hole. It's an operating table, and I'm the surgeon. And it's like, again, there's no gadgets. There's no tricks. There's just the surprise value of it. You know, Gordon unlocks the dude's cell.
And he climbs through the biggest air vents ever created.
I was thinking, like, how do those... I mean, where is this jail? Where's the prison cell?
It's right by the big pipe.
Yeah, and how does the ducting system run all the way to this mud pit? Like, how long is this, and how is it so directly right to this place?
You're too much of like a builder, you know. None of that shit. None of that shit occurred to me.
Yeah. No, ducting is usually just in the building that you're in.
Yeah, I don't know. Never occurred to me.
I've got a little commentary on that too. I really appreciated that, especially having watched like Ninja Turtles before this, and the fights are so dynamic and choreographed, and it's like ninjas versus ninjas and shit. And this isn't. This is like just two different rounds, and even with the stuff with Joker, but the Joker stuff includes guns too. But this is just like a street fight, or if you watched UFC and other mixed martial arts, like you just put two dudes together, and one of them needs to die or nearly die, and you have to like put. I mean, not actually in UFC, obviously, but in this scenario, in Batman versus the mutant leader, like one of them needs to die here, and with the exception of the crowbar, how far would you take it, and how hard would it be to like take a person's life with your own hands? And these fights are just as impactful as like Batman versus Shredder, only this is just punching each other's ribs into oblivion. And the one thing later on too, in the second fight, is that Batman starts to implement grappling and jujitsu and stuff, and
focus
like
strikes to like hitting the same spot over and over.
Yeah.
So
what was that? Like just the right cut, the kind that bleeds.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Yeah. He knows stuff that the mutant leader doesn't. The mutant leader is a big, strong dude, and that is enough for him to win against most everybody. But he doesn't actually
if they just punch each other in the face over and over, Batman's not going to win.
Yeah,
for sure. So that means that like he has to start. He has a better plan, and that's honestly how it would be too if you just slap two dudes out on the street. Like jujitsu is the means of like incapacitating or killing people with like the least damage to yourself possible. You just like manipulate their body, and you just make it so they can't do anything anymore. They just can't breathe. I mean, choking a person out is like it's not the easiest thing that you could do, but it resolves the conflict the most quickly. So he just starts taking out the dude's joints, you know, like the mutant leader is just a huge boxer, and that's all he's got. So
and he's fast. I mean, he does some like they animate him to be very threatening in terms of his fighting, and it comes across that he is a real challenge for Batman.
Yeah.
But I remember that from the book, and they translated it to the animation so well. It's that particular scene before he paralyzes his arm, where he hits him in the shoulder like 4 or 5 times in a row, and like dodging in between, and he just keeps going back to that same spot. And like so many of these action scenes in this film, it's just a steady shot. They don't cut away. They don't switch angles. Yeah. So you really see how focused he is on that, and it conveys how good of a fighter he is, and that you just needed to think about it. And
again, it just reminds you that even when we are just watching a superhero slugfest, that the reason Batman is, top of the food chain in these situations is still because of his intellect.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he knows what other people don't. They do such a good job making everything so impactful in this. Yeah. Like when Batman first comes back and he rips the dude out of the car and tears that guy's money up. Those punches sound so thunderous. Like those are Superman level sounding punches, and they're just coming from him, but they sound so rad. And then same thing in this. Everything's just like crash. It's so huge.
Think about how long he had been waiting to punch someone again.
Yeah, he needed that rush. that sadistic rush.
Like, oh man.
What if the first time he goes to punch somebody and his like old man calcium deficiency really starts to? He's like, "This is it, sucker!" And he just like breaks his own wrist. Like, never.
His elbow shattered.
Yeah, no.
But the speed that they're fighting and hitting each other, despite being two huge dudes, is another thing that I thought was conveyed really, really well. Like I believe that these guys who really probably shouldn't move that fast could move that fast. And some of that, like in that first Bane fight in Dark Knight Rises, had that same element.
Yeah.
Although Tom Hardy's not very big, but they kind of made him look big.
Well, and I think it still makes sense to me anyways, because that's the difference between, like, if you ever went to school with a kid who was big for like an 18-year-old, they were just like a big-bodied kid. Or you have some people who are who have the exact same proportions as like a small athletic person, only they're a huge athletic person. Because you have mixed martial arts again. You have dudes like heavyweight is just a weight class, so you could be a fatty or you could be the trimmest 300-pound dude in the world, and that version of a person is like incredibly strong and incredibly athletic, and they're not slower for being huge. They have huge muscles.
True.
Like if you're that big, that means your pec can be this big and your legs can be that much bigger. You potentially can be, incredibly fast and incredibly destructive.
And everybody's slow when they're thigh deep in the mud.
Yeah, man. If I was the mutant leader, I would have just given Batman a hug with my metal nipples and stabbed him in the chest. How can you never use those bad boys?
Just for sex, not for
Stupid.
fighting.
Oh, it's just some kinky stuff.
It's because he uses clamps so often.
Mutant leader played by Uncle Ruckus.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
He was somebody's dad, Malcolm in the Middle. He's a comedic actor. He's been in a bunch of stuff, but he's also Uncle Ruckus.
That's great.
I saw in the credits that Bruce Timm is Thomas Wayne.
Yeah, that's
I
awesome.
was like, what?
What are you going to do when you catch that rabbit?
When Carrie comes in and saves Batman, it really hit me like, oh shit, you could have died. This could have just been the end of the cartoon right here.
Yeah.
Do this. Because sometimes you have stuff just seems like it. Maybe there wasn't all that much on the line and somebody just tosses a smoke ball and they just dip out and it wasn't really as harrowing. You didn't almost maybe die. But in this, I really got the feeling that like, yeah, you really almost died and that girl saved your life.
Yeah.
He could toss a smoke bomb and then the smoke would clear and he'd still just be lying on the ground.
Yeah, like, shit.
Oh.
He'd move like 6 inches of like fucking army crawl.
With one arm.
Oh, he just looks over his shoulder like,
I really like that because there's the recurring theme in this story. It's almost a reversal of normal Robin stories where Robin is reckless and Batman has to save him and then chastise him, whereas like this, Batman is reckless and Robin keeps disobeying him to save him, and it works, and he's like, thanks, that was great.
Yeah, he's like,
he always likes it too. He's like,
deviate and you are fired.
Yeah, so many times he tells her she's going to get
Deviates
fired.
every time.
But also, thanks.
Yeah, every time he's into it. After she saves him, he's on the table and he needs a splint to help his arm, and she just she just kicks a metal pipe on the inside of the vehicle, and I was thinking like, how did you know that wasn't crucial? And there's not like a lot of things.
Starts filling with gasoline in the chamber.
Yeah, I wouldn't ever like open the hood of my car and be like, eeny meeny, that doesn't look important or something. Like I get it. It makes a good splint because it's a pipe or something, but I can only assume that it's there for a reason and it is part of the mechanics.
Batman's just into steampunk design. Like all that stuff is pointless on the inside.
Yeah.
That's so funny. One thing I really liked with Carrie's character was when he uses her to go undercover and bait everybody to go to the pipe. I thought that was just really clever writing, having her walk out all cocky like the Assumption, like, oh yeah, you guys are down. That's why you're fucking here and not where everyone's supposed to be.
You don't even slam at the pipe. I don't shiv.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool that he plants that little seed to get the ball rolling.
She is to do that.
For sure.
Yeah, it's a really smart move.
She speaks the language.
I also really like the scene that we overlooked where the mayor feels like he has to, I got to handle this myself. That's what the polls say, And fucking, they just let him go in there alone, unsupervised, with the leader and get, I don't know, eaten, shredded up, whatever.
His neck chewed out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
This is a terrible world.
Yeah.
And it's not just bad, it's like people don't think all that much. They don't think about the right things, and then they get their neck chewed out.
I bet Gordon just didn't like that dude, and he was like, good, fuck it, go in there.
I'm 70, I'm almost done with this thing. I don't give a shit.
What I like is that it's so, it happens so quickly. There's not like a couple of minutes where they have a conversation and he attempts to, like, seduce him or make it seem like something dangerous isn't
the
gonna
city together.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's no conversation. There's no, oh no, I'm totally not gonna hurt you or anything like that. It's like as soon as the dude turns around, he's like, yes, thank you, I'm helping. I'm gonna do exactly what you didn't want me to do, like instantly, actually.
So I watched the deluxe edition where it's just one seamless edit. Now, I know Ev has both DVDs 1 and 2. Ben, what did you watch?
I watched the deluxe edition.
Okay. So, Evan, let me ask you this.
Yep.
At the end, is there a cliffhanger when Joker is overhearing the Batman chatter after the mud hole fight and the Sons of Batman thing starts? He's in the asylum. He's hearing this on the TV behind him, and then he starts to
like finger tapping.
Yeah. He starts to move, and I feel like, if I remember right, that was sort of the cliffhanger on number 1. Is that right?
Yeah, it's like it pretty much ends in the same place that the next one starts. Like, it just picks up again from there, right?
Well, mine was all one piece, so I'm asking what you saw.
I have to look, but I'm pretty sure that's how it goes. It like ends with Joker in front of the TV, and then the next one starts with
darling.
him in front of the TV.
And
this isn't Wheel of Fortune.
Well, and then it continues as we watch the gangs splinter off. You have the Sons of Batman, which again was drawn on in The Dark Knight as the copycats in the beginning of the film. Are you the real Batman? That whole fucking shit. God, I say fuck a lot. We have this great
That's why we
scene.
can't get any good sponsorships. You can't get like the...
Take that, Radar.
I mean, the big money is broad. You can't curse if you want the big money.
Oh.
Yeah, how are you ever going to get like those Girl Scout sponsorships if you're dropping bombs all over the place?
Yeah, I want free Thin Mints, man.
I hate mint.
Well, I fucking hate you.
Big shout out to Radar Toys. Thank you for the continued support.
Thanks for the cookies.
They didn't give us cookies.
I bought a rubber coin bank from them.
What was it?
That's an exciting story.
It is,
Was that the beginning, middle, and end?
I got my hand retrieving flow days from the medicine cabinet.
It's like a cool bust about this big.
No one can see your hands.
5.5 inches?
Maybe more than that.
Oh.
But it's a
6 and a
Spider
quarter?
Gwen
How long is your dick?
coin bank.
Oh.
Let me get close so it looks bigger. There we go.
Spider Gwen? 3
Spider Gwen
centimeters?
to go with a Venom one I already had.
Nice.
Nice.
I
Had a good selection.
I called them yesterday so I can get my hands on 3 Jokers and also the Joker 80th because I had been at work so much I hadn't got to get out, and they sold through them, but they said they could still get me a Capullo one. I wanted that Bermejo, but they said they could still get me a Capullo. So,
Man, I think you'd get like top slot at that place.
I mean,
You wouldn't curse so much. Maybe they treat you better.
Yeah!
son of a bitch. I didn't have a sub box until now. They just set one up for me because I don't really buy monthlies. I buy the trades when it's all put together, and so it didn't really make sense for me to have a sub box. But now I do. So suck on that.
Are you talking about titles or are you talking about like figures?
Yeah, for comics.
Okay. The whole time I thought you were talking about like memorabilia because Ben was talking banks and you're talking about Joker. I assumed you were talking about like some figure.
No, the
limited covers of those.
Yeah, they had like 6 versions or something. Man, there was some really good ones. I think the first one I saw was Jock, that like purple cover, and I think it was sort of a Dark Knight Returns thing because didn't he have the Batarang in his face? It's like a New 52 Joker with the shredded, reattached face, but I think he had the Batarang sticking out of his face too.
That's cool.
But yeah, there were some really good ones. There was just
Is that the Red Hood masking thing?
Oh no! See that was Fabric. That's
awesome.
3 Jokers. That's the new Jeff Johns, Jason Fabric thing that's going to come out in August, I think. And they just unveiled I think he's got 3 variants per issue, and it's a 3-story arc, so it's like 9 variants.
Yeah.
But I asked him to get me that Red Hood one, so I hope I get it.
Yeah, that was awesome.
It fucking looks amazing. And he's like, yeah, we basically took the same proportion, the same close-up, distance, the same lighting, and then just go through everything from, Red Hood, Death in the Family, just like all the way down, all the iconic Joker shots recreated, and God, they look so good.
That's cool. I like that.
Well, back to Frank Miller. We were talking about a movie, right? I think. So we got this great undercover scene where Batman is disguised. Frank Miller likes the Batman disguise we're going to talk about in year one as well. But this time, he's somehow shrunk his massive physique into a hunching old lady.
He's the largest small old lady ever.
Yeah.
Like a linebacker.
Hey, I mean, big, giant, fat people get old too. So, can't
Not
discriminate.
If they die when they're young.
That's true also. You both bring up good points.
Yeah. This is getting weird. But speaking of weird, that's when we have the whole Bruno Nazi tits gang robbing a liquor store.
With Ron and Rob and Don. What are their names?
Rob and Don.
Rob and Don. Yeah, they're now.
Oh yeah, they've been converted.
Yeah.
These guys are just like the biggest group of followers I've ever seen in my entire life. Like they're just they can't. No decisions for themselves. They have to have some sort of leader. They're just waiting for the next thing.
I think they are the average American.
Yeah. It's commentary.
Yeah, but these people seem kind of active, and that's kind of contrary to a lot of Americans.
I mean, hey, I was going to make fun of them, but look, I'm wearing a Sam I Am t-shirt. I was like, those dumb idiots even wear their fucking names on their shirts and shit. And here I am doing the same thing.
Is that so you don't forget?
Yeah, sometimes I do. I can remember lots of. I can remember.
Oh, it's a freaking mirror. Okay.
I remember lots of Batman and music trivia, but I forget my own identity from time to time.
You can only have so much room, and not everything is important.
Exactly, lyrics way more important than me.
Identity.
Yeah. So
I have to have a decent vocabulary so that I can make puns, and I can't remember anything else.
Nothing but wordplay. That's all I got left. I like that this whole sequence, he never, pulls off the disguise and then fights as Batman. Just this whole fucking long-ass thing, he's still the old lady the whole time. And
she gets knocked around a bit, too.
This is when we get, the integrity of that disguise is it's notable. But yeah, then Superman shows up. And this is when it starts to get weird. Really, the second half is the weird shit, The mutant stuff is a little unusual for Gotham, but again, your reading of it, well, this is just some big crazy guy who filed his teeth. I don't know. But now
I don't think it's not a literal mutant. It's because the whole idea behind the series was this character was written 40 years ago.
Well, this is from the birth of punk rock, too. I mean, maybe he's just look, a guy like this, They
can't really...
He does this to himself, his own appearance.
They can't super be mutants anyways because you have, Rob and Don specifically being so extreme looking before with the visors and the spikes and stuff. And then they're in the bar and they just look like they're just blonde-haired, blue-eyed dudes.
Yeah.
So they had the ability to grow hair the whole time. So I feel like mutant is the name of the gang rather than the type of people they are.
Yeah. Because young people are mutants. They're so different from the rest of us.
Sweet.
So pointless and angry.
So this is when we get this awesome scene where Todd Phillips sort of drew on this with the Murray Franklin show.
In The Hangover.
In The Hangover, yeah. I want to talk about the movie Old School for a little while, where Vince Vaughn worked at the Circuit City, and there was this great sequence but we have Dr. Walper immediately seeing Joker is speaking again, and was like, I just got back from a TV show. Would you like to go on the TV show? People would love to hear what you have to say. I'm like, you fucking clown. And then, obviously, he goes on the Conan O'Brien show.
David Endocrine.
Thought that was a good cameo. And then he's got his gas balloons, those freaky children puppet things. I don't know what they are.
Absolutely.
So that was clearly something that Burton drew on for '89. But then Again, all this is one scene. We have that being like a huge basis for the climax in 89, and then inside the talk show, he breaks the fucking mug and slits the doctor's throat. You know, very much like when Joaquin Arthur Fleck pulls the gun on Murray Franklin. I mean, there's so much crammed into this little like 3-minute sequence. I mean, it's pretty great, and then proceeds to gas the whole audience. I mean, that's some dead-on classic Joker shit.
Yeah, he kills everybody. I appreciated how optimistic Joker's therapist is, but I would think that a person in that profession would be a little more discerning, or...
I think the commentary on that character, though, is that he's very much just one of those, like, Dr. Oz, Dr. Phil types to, like, you know, I want to be...
famous and known and recognized.
Yeah, Dr. Drew, you know, like,
arrogant.
Oh, I've got the hot take of the moment. Oh, I've got the hot guest of the moment. He's my patient, you know, like...
Yeah, for sure.
Which
kind of using these people.
Yeah, a little bit.
I think that's like it's now also, but definitely an 80s thing. Again, with the kind of the criticism and commentary on like armchair psychology in general.
Yes.
Like, even though that's the whole book is psychology.
Do you guys watch Better Call Saul?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So for Ben, then, did you notice that Dr. Walper is Michael McKean? Yeah, who plays Chuck McGill. I thought that was like, man, this guy's voice is familiar, and I looked it up. I was like, oh shit, it's Chuck McGill.
He plays the character really well.
Yeah, it's so good.
Just smug and annoying.
I just love when they get
Batman's,
really
psychosexual erotic fixation on criminals.
I just love when they get a really good, like a really good character actor to do a bit part in an animated film is great.
I thought that Conan did a really good job with his dying laugh after he gets gassed.
He chewed that up.
I honestly didn't even think that was him. I was like, damn, did they overdub the end of this scene with somebody else? Like,
he's killing it.
No, I'm sure he's like, I'll do it if you let me do this laugh at the end of it.
Yeah, for sure. No, go.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Not unless my character dies. I want to giggle on the way out.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
He does a way good job.
Man, there's another thing that happens. I think it's actually at the end of part 1 where Gordon packs up his shit and he officially retires. Ellen Yindel, or Yindel, I forget, is his successor as commissioner. And then I was like, wait a second, I know that name. And Ellen Yin was the detective, one of the 2 lead detectives on the 2004 cartoon, The Batman. And like totally different.
Did the character look similar?
No, totally different character. Because this one's a white lady, and on the TV show, she's Asian.
She's a large Puerto Rican man.
Yeah. But, you know, she's a Frank Miller drawing. She's 300 pounds and, you know, 6-foot shoulders. But, yeah, I just thought that was another little interesting thing of like, God, who hasn't referenced this in some way?
Well, I feel like the Barbara Gordon in Batman Beyond pulls some of her character design.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's that, like, the short cropped hair, the glasses. It's similar to me.
Nice. What else we got here? So we have... Oh, yeah, this is when it starts to go off the rails a little bit. We got Superman at war with Russia. Why? Why is this here?
I think because that's our big worry in the 80s is a conflict with Russia. And so the idea that, like...
Wait, now or then?
Well, now also, but especially then.
No, in the past future.
Oh, you're right. We've come full circle.
But if we had Superman on our side, or if the U.S. government had Superman on its side, and he was, like, as patriotic as the character was originally intended to be, that's what it would be. We'd be getting in way more wars than we are now, because you just throw him at it.
It's got more Corto Maltese stuff in it, too.
I love that, too, man. I totally didn't even realize all these years it's been since I read the original book that another thing that I don't know if I'd credit Burton, but you know, maybe Sam Hamm and Daniel Waters for
somebody read something.
Yeah, for using that as, you know, Vicky's portfolio.
At one point later on, they have another one of those newscasting background images, and it's got I think maybe it has like the huge missile heading towards Corto Maltese, the island.
Mm-hmm.
and it made me really curious about the geography of the world in this place, because I always thought for some reason in my head that Metropolis would be more like New York City and Gotham would be more like Chicago. That's just always how
location?
Yeah, and
I think Metropolis is in Kansas. Metropolis is in the Midwest.
What?
Yeah, because Superman goes from small town Kansas. Metropolis is a Midwestern city.
No way.
I just thought he was flying wherever he wants.
No
You
way.
can't do that.
No way.
Metropolis is in the Midwest.
No.
Yeah.
Are you fucking... Dude, I always thought this was...
So Metropolis is like Kansas City.
It might not
way.
literally be in Kansas, but it's in the Midwest.
I totally always thought of, Metropolis as Manhattan and Gotham as Brooklyn. I thought that they were just like sister cities.
You think they're that close to each other?
I've read a few comics where I think they are written like that, but I think traditionally they're far away.
I'm going to fucking pull up my laptop
and
right
their
here.
names. I mean, Metropolis is just city, and Gotham is also just city.
Yeah,
They weren't like super thought out when they came up with it.
Metropolis Town.
Yeah. City.
Yeah. In this image, it made it seem as if Corto Maltese was like fairly close to Gotham, and I was like, where the fuck is Gotham? And then also Corto Maltese is like, it's like Cuba or like the Dominican Republic or something, and there's no Florida. Like, I don't really know where these places are. I don't know this stuff.
It's really confusing.
Yeah.
That nuke could go off course and blow up right outside of Corto Maltese and affect Gotham.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden I was like, this isn't a real movie that I'm watching?
Okay, I've got the answers here.
But you realize it now, right?
I'm on...
Once the geography, I was like, wait. This isn't the planet that I live on.
Hang on.
Yeah, you're right, because the missile gets diverted and it
doesn't fly that far.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's what the kicker was. It's not that the map showed Gotham. It's just that, like, it almost collided with Corto Maltese. Superman kicked it off, but the explosion is, like, incredibly super closely visible to Gotham. Therefore, Gotham must be where Florida is. I was like, I don't know about this.
All right. Peep this. So,
what's up,
in
Buttercup?
Superman number 2, 1939, Metropolis is placed in the state of New York.
What about a different thing that supports what I say?
In 1940s, in the Fleischer Studios cartoon, Superman is said to live in Manhattan. Let's see. In 1970s, in the Q&A column in the back of DC publications, it says Metropolis and Gotham City were adjacent to New York City, across the harbor from each other. I want to keep finding things that prove you wrong here, but I could stop.
Get to the one where you go, but in 2013, the editor superseded all of those and said that.
So Frank,
we hired this guy named Ben Key.
Let me get on the Wikipedia page really quick. I'll edit it.
Frank Miller was quoted saying, "Metropolis is New York in the daytime. Gotham City is New York at night."
See, that's more like about characterization of the city, not geography.
Yeah, I know. I just liked it. I thought it was cool. We're doing a Frank Miller episode.
The Fortress of Solitude is in, like, Cancun, right?
It's in the icy part of Cancun, yes.
Yeah.
It's the cold part, yeah.
It looks like Alaska, but it's in Florida.
No, there is no Florida. Florida is Gotham. So they can't be the same. Well, they could be the same place.
Okay, here we go. Metropolis is frequently depicted as being within driving distance of Gotham City. Gotham and Metropolis being twin cities.
So tell me where Keystone City is then.
It doesn't say that.
Well, ask your thing.
I mean,
Siri,
where's Gotham City?
Is that where they make the beer? I don't even know what that is.
Keystone City is the Flash's city.
Okay,
City is in the Midwest.
that is in.
There is a city in the Midwest.
That is in Missouri.
Somebody's got beer on the brain.
Yeah, it says Keystone City is across the Missouri River from Central City. So yeah, that one you got right.
Okay, good. That's the important part.
Yeah.
I got something correct, and that is what matters the most.
All right, I'm putting away the laptop. Now,
this is interesting.
This portion is called I Am Right.
This podcast is called I Only Associate with People Who Will Just say yes to everything that I say.
You're wrong. You're wrong.
Correct.
You're wrong.
That is correct.
All right, so another great Batman quote. There's nothing wrong with the Joker that I can't fix with my hands.
My mitts.
My mitts. Yeah, totally.
When Superman shows up, I love how overdone his...
The curl?
Yeah, I like
The
how
eagle.
overdone his... Yeah,
the
that's fucking ridiculous. He looks like a swashbuckler, and for some reason the bird listens to him and hangs out with him. That was all very stupid to me.
I think it's better in the comic because it's just a page.
Yeah.
Where when you animate a bald eagle actually flying and landing on his arm.
Yeah.
I didn't like it.
I mean, either way, it is making the statement. Yeah.
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 And again, this is where it continues to get weirder. Joker gets essentially Poison Ivy moves here with his tainted lipstick to mind control the, speaking of old fat ladies, Catwoman, to then pass this along and mind control the congressman. Again, I'm losing the motivation here.
I like the retooling of it because in the original book it was like, so Frank Miller's Catwoman started out as a prostitute.
Yeah.
Which then they retconned out in like Long Halloween or something like that. They changed it. I don't remember how, but they changed that away. But so in the original Dark Knight Returns, those are like the same universe. So it seemed like she was still a prostitute.
Yeah.
In her 60s, which is a thing. I mean, that is a thing. But
except now she's got the agency. You know, she's the pimp now.
Oh, yeah, she's the whatever that is.
Because it's Kyle Escorts or whatever.
Yeah,
you know?
it's her company.
It plays better when it's the beginning of her career.
Yeah.
But the idea that so after 40 years of being a superhero,
Yeah.
she went back to her old habits because it's just weird. And I felt like in this, that wasn't in the cartoon, was it? Like she's just in a dress in her house. They don't talk about her being like
Yeah, they do.
Mother.
What are you talking about? Yeah, there's a whole thing on Kyle Escorts, and then her girls get to the congressman, and that's... You must have zoned out for a minute. Yeah. You're like, man, this part's whack. I'm going to scroll through my phone.
This is much better, she's just an old woman in her home, just like dressing nice because she likes to.
Nope.
Now Joker like takes control of her with mind control, not just like male aggression or whatever it was in the first one.
Edginess.
Yeah. Oh man, he's such an edgelord. I can't resist him.
Nothing.
I'm an old lady.
Oh shit!
Selena Kyle loves an edgelord.
Polanski's
I'm
greatest
definitely
hits.
not someone who fought people for 40 years.
Here's my next note. Commissioner Yendel follows Batman to Kyle Escorts. Now, he's got Robin with him.
You read it wrong. It's Kyle Exports. She runs a shipping and export company.
Oh, got it. And so Robin is with him, and he's making his escape, and she's just like, open fire, and fucking like shooting at this child. I kind of couldn't believe that. I mean, we talked a little bit about the child endangerment thing with the Robins, but this is from the cops just going to shoot right at a child.
Her costume is just a fashion injustice, and it needs to be. Yeah, anybody who would wear those shoes deserves to die.
Wow. There was a brief shot in Year One that has a little police commentary in it like this too, where it's just like, they don't give a fuck. Shoot first and ask questions later,
Yeah.
But unlike Year One, where Year One, like police corruption
Yes.
and a fair number of the cops being bad is a central part of that story. This one, they don't seem bad in that way.
It's
they
true.
Just seem like they're just a little careless.
Yeah.
But like, there's not a lot of commentary about that. Like, the police are the problem. It's just to Batman, they're not part of the solution. He just doesn't care. He's not even trying to elude them in this. I mean, he's not trying to get caught, but he's just like, I'm going to fight you like I fight everyone else. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
This is my city.
And she just started and like really definitively put her foot down in regards to how she feels about Batman. So she's, just shooting him up that's pretty brazen.
But again, with a kid right there.
Maybe she just thought it was a very small person.
And this dwarf.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a very little person. Yeah. I like there's the line with her in the scene that is from the book that I really like. It's like "Come on, he's twice your age, son. Grow some whatever." Get some courage. Find your courage or something.
When they have the gunfight and they have the crossfire, it was like the version of Batman 89 where they actually shoot the mobsters and just actually shoot each other instead.
Yeah.
Like this is what would happen to you to actually just cap all your buddies.
Well, actually, on that note, I thought you would really appreciate as they arrive at the fairgrounds and Joker starts indiscriminately shooting. We see Batman at close range ducking gunfire again. I know that was something you liked on the last episode when we talked about Red Hood.
It's different, Sam. It's about physics and motion portrayal.
Yeah, they don't show Joker shoot, and then the bullet in midair, Batman doesn't duck out of the way. It's more like
he doesn't jump rope over it after the gun's been fired.
Although there is a fair amount of gunfights in this where, like, Batman would have actually just been shot to death.
Yeah.
Like where he's outnumbered and they all have their assault rifles trained on them and they probably have some skill or training. They're loose with that.
Did you ever see those Family Guy Star Wars movies where they do like a shot-for-shot remake?
I've seen the first one, yeah.
There was one of them.
So good.
There's one of them where they're like, I think they're in the Falcon and they're getting shot at and like they're scared. And he's like, don't worry, there's like 3 or 4 main characters in this thing. You know, like...
My dad regularly quotes the whole "don't get penisy, kid."
Yeah. Then we get this awesome sequence, which was sort of the basis for the death of the family showdown in the New 52, where the Hall of Mirrors, the Tunnel of Love.
I love that.
And also Gotham used the Hall of Mirrors when they had the Jerome Valeska character, the Joker, when he catches up with Bruce. It's in a Hall of Mirrors just like this. But yeah, just such iconic fight scene when they. I mean, they're just out to do it. They're out to finish it. You know.
Yeah.
It's
a funny place for your final showdown
because they both love each other in their own way.
Yeah, it's weird.
I really like this depiction of the Joker because he has that where like Batman will do something, legitimately hurt him, or maybe even surprise him with how brutal he is.
Yeah.
Like he has a moment where he's upset by it and hurt, like physically hurt, and then he immediately goes to like, "This is great."
Yeah.
I love this. I'm glad to see this new side of
No, I'm having fun. I swear that I can't remember what it is, but I swear that I saw something else at one point where like the character's whole thing was that they just couldn't feel stuff anymore, and you know it was good and also detrimental, you know, because like if you got burned, how would you know that you got burned?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how this Joker strikes me sometimes. Like he is absent.
Well, yeah, he gets stabbed in the fucking eye and then just keeps on going.
He doesn't seem to care. He would bat an eye if he had an eye to bat.
I don't think he's a Bond villain where it's like he had, like from that Pierce Brosnan one where he had some kind of brain damage so he couldn't literally feel things.
No, I don't think there's like a real explanation. That's just kind of how he strikes me. Like
he doesn't register them or they don't bother him.
Yeah, that's what makes him kind of inhuman to me is just that there's a real separation between his humanity almost is it kind of gets to like a physical level where he's just not fazed by something like that, or it turns into like a fun category, like no, this is cool. This is the game that we're playing, and I'm gonna do it.
Depending on how deep you want to go, it could be a result of him being like so medicated for so long. You know, I mean, you hear about like when a drunk person gets hit by a car, you know, that their limbs are so almost rubbery the way they react to it that they are far more likely to just get away with walking out of that as opposed to the average person who is going to be stiff and fold under that pressure.
For sure, it's the same like when you push a drunk person off a building. It's the same basic idea.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Yeah, I've been that person on both ends. And there's also something to be said about adrenaline anyways, because when I got in my motorcycle accident, I didn't feel any of that stuff. So
wow,
he's having such a good time that a little batarang to the eyeball just ain't a thing.
I know, because I think, Sam, you talked about before how you're not super into a Joker that is like physically dangerous or physically threatening.
I mean, I like a small statured guy, but I don't mind him being scrappy. I like that. I think this showdown is great, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, he's dodging Batman stuff. He's unpredictable. He's fast.
Yeah.
He's a threat to Batman, despite Batman being able to fight a SWAT team.
Yeah, I just don't.
At 60 years old.
I like a dangerous and armed Joker.
Yeah.
Keeping up with Batman for a sec. What I don't like is a fist to fist fighting where he's holding his own. Like, no, that fight should last 5 seconds.
Yeah. He's tricksy. That's like what he's got going for him.
Well, and he can take a beating. I think that's the point of it. Like that, the kind of things that Batman would use to intimidate someone or stun someone don't work on him.
Yeah,
for sure, he doesn't
because he just doesn't matter.
You have nothing to do with all your strength. So good.
Joker, and this is a real butthole too. When they finally get to the Tunnel of Love stuff, he punches a lady in the mirror hall, and then he also kicks another lady, like specifically women in both of these parts. He kicks another lady off the boat.
Kidnaps a kid too.
Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah. He doesn't give a crap. I think
he's gonna have to go through you to get to me.
Yeah, man.
I mean, it's kind of like the end of Death in the Family when he's just indiscriminately shooting at people in the UN. He's very much just firing at anything that moves because he
that
can.
Seems silly. This seems like a reminder of why Batman hates the character so much and why he's such a problem.
Yeah.
Because he's just so indiscriminate and so violent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where in that it was just silly. Shooting up the UN with his turban on.
Well, I bring it up just because there's so many things in this era, all these stories we keep talking about. I mean, they're all very tied together in their own little ways. I mean, there's so many little similarities. I mean, we were just talking, The Killing Joke is the last episode that I've edited that will be airing this coming week. The end of that and the end of this are not all that different. They're just different takes on it, Yeah,
I mean, like, setup-wise, they're similar, but...
That one's psychological, this one's physical.
But, I mean, Batman's relationship to the Joker, or their relationship with each other, seems so different in The Killing Joke. Because, again, The Killing Joke, there's the moment of, like, Batman going, like, let me help you, because I don't want to do this anymore. Let me fix you. We're, like, in this... He just fucking hates the Joker.
Yeah, I don't think he cares about the Joker at all.
He spits on his face.
Yeah.
Like, when he's already gone. Like, they seem very different in that way.
Well, give that relationship another 20 or 30 years and...
that's what it'll become.
It get a little more bitter.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for all we know, this just comes after The Killing Joke anyways, and they are all part of the same story anyway.
Mm.
He's
now he just hates that dude. He's ready for him to die.
He's officially sick of his shit.
Yeah,
he's like, man,
you blow, dude.
I shouldn't have laughed at that one fucking joke.
Yeah. Why did I even try? Yeah, I gave him the wrong idea.
Should have choked you out when I had the chance.
In that fight that I really liked, where he says, "It's like all the people I've murdered, by not stopping you."
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we get the neck crack moment, and it had been so long since I had watched or read this story. I was like, "Oh yeah, he does it." But then he's still alive. And I'm like, wait a second. And then Joker does it to himself. I'm like, oh, God, yeah. I forgot.
Yeah, I think that's way better in the animation, because in the book, I understood that's what was happening, but something about the motion of it I didn't get.
Yeah.
What I do like about, though I haven't actually read this book, I just know that I've seen that portion of the book. What I liked about the images in the book is how Miller's stuff just kind of everything looks sort of disgusting to me anyways. Like, everybody's lumpy and everybody's squiggling. It's all weird. So this version of the Joker looks pretty gross to me. It's just like when he breaks his own neck, it's like a couple panels to show his like head turning around or something. And then the whole time it's just like crack, 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 as if it's like taking forever, because if you were like pop, that would be one pop, like one turn, but it makes it seem as if it's taking like 30 seconds for him to like slowly
like
turn
slow
his head
motion
around and kill himself. Yeah, it's gross. And the fact that he breaking your neck doesn't automatically kill you. That's why you have people who are like quadriplegic after accidents, So Batman's like, I'm just sick of your shit. It's like the ultimate butt spank or something. And
ultimate butt spank.
You're not gonna do anything anymore, bro. Like you're destined to just sit down forever.
Oh man. I love in the after.
What?
Oh, go ahead.
And then just to have him do it to himself, anyways. Like, God, that's brutal. And the imagery of the whole thing, like he still has the batarang in his eyeball. He's all bloodied up. He breaks his own neck. Like, you are a legit psychopath.
It's the brutality that
translate. Go ahead.
It's the brutality that this final showdown deserves.
For sure.
But in the book, like I didn't. So when Batman snaps his neck in the book, I thought like, oh, Batman just killed him.
Yeah.
So that's when he crossed the line, and then like he's still talking in the book. Like, so I'm confused.
Yeah.
And then he cracks his neck in the book, but because there's no sound, he still has like wide open eye and a big smiley face. And so I'm like, is he?
Yeah.
Is he dead? Is he alive? What's going on? Or in the animation, it was very clear to me what was happening. Batman cripples him.
True.
He's still alive. He rubs it in his face a little bit more that even though he didn't force him to kill him, which is what he wanted, he did force him to go about as far as you could possibly go.
Yeah.
And then he kills himself. Like that was all very clear to me, much more so than in the book.
Yeah.
Man, that whole thing is rough. He's stabbing Batman in the guts and everything. Like, oh my God, this fight is so rugged.
He takes a lot of direct hits on that, and I love in the aftermath with Carrie and Alfred. You know, he's on the operating table, and Alfred's like, he'll live. He's far too stubborn to die.
I forgot to talk about it earlier, but they after Bruce gets kind of injured the first time around, and it was just a good Alfred-Bruce thing, and Alfred sticks it to him, and he has this line like, if it's suicide you're after, I have an old family recipe. It's slow and painful. You'd like it.
Yeah.
So good.
The Timmy doll or the Billy doll or whatever seemed pretty upset when the first doll flew off and blew up. And Joker's like, don't worry about it. Oh.
Yeah, I kind of
like AI robots or just regular robots.
I kind of hate those things.
I don't really get that at all.
If they were just gas balloons, that's one thing, but it's another like Frank Millerism of like here's a thing that I'm just not going to explain. I'm like, all right, sure.
Like autonomous flying robot children?
It seems like a thing from comic books.
I guess.
I bet you they're from a comic from like the 50s.
I just don't really get... because flying is like a very special thing, and Batman does. No, not everybody can fly, Ben. So you have like very few characters. But what the hell is going on? What kind of super tech do these dolls have in them that makes them able to fly, not remotely controlled? I don't get it.
Yeah.
That guy getting sucked up into the gear thing is a fairly brutal moment.
Yeah. I'm not when Carrie's on the roller coaster.
They show it from the underside, so they don't have to show his head. But then there's like a blood explosion above his head, so you know what's up.
Yeah. That was great too, because so many of those moments in comics and cartoons, you'd be like, if there's a big Batman fight in like a factory or something. I feel like this might have been an episode of the animated series I'm picturing where there's like Harley has got Batman, tied up and he's on this conveyor and he's going towards this big gear that's going to fucking snap off his head or some shit, There's always the anticipation and whatever. And with that, it was very much just like one quick smooth motion and holy fuck, that guy's got no head.
Carrie Kelly did not take an oath to not kill people or save them before they get crushed to death.
Nope.
It looked like she was smiling when it happened too. She's
like, oh, my first kill.
Yeah. I think that she cried, but it was like a good cry. It wasn't a bad cry.
Then we have the third finale of this story. Superman intercepts the nuke, takes it up to space, and Bruce awakens during the EMP in the aftermath of that. Then again, we get weird with the... he pulls himself out of bed and he looks to Carrie and says, ever rode a horse before? Yeah. And, we just... we see him gear up for fucking battle. And it's like... it's so strange to me because, like, the whole Superman face-off is so iconic, but it's also like the least relevant thing to this whole story. I feel like the mutant leader and then the Joker thing were like the perfect 1-2 punch.
I couldn't disagree more, and I think you should go.
No, like I think it's so good. I'm not dissing it. I'm just like I don't know. Superman's whole involvement in the story wasn't necessary up until this point.
It could have just been a Batman story. Do you think that it's...
Yes.
Do you think that it's just a case of trying to put too much into stuff like we talk about sometimes, where people are just like, hey, leave it what it is. Don't put more in there.
I don't know. I think it seems to me like there was the idea of this third confrontation, and that at some point retroactively he had to be like, all right, well, how am I going to fit him into this story? Because that's really the only issue I have with it is like the earlier stuff of like, that's nothing for me.
Because I think the whole theme of this story, again, is updating Batman both for a more modern world,
yeah,
but also what would he be like as an old man at the end of his career.
Yeah.
And so the first hurdle is the youth gangs. And so he takes them down both by still proving that he's a physical threat, but also he's smart and skilled, and he's inspirational, and he can lead people. And then his second threat, and mixed in with the first threat, because you have Two-Face also, but the second threat of the Joker, his past. You know, the villains who have always been the problem to him no matter what. They've always been a challenge.
Yeah.
And he deals with that. And then the third is the inept society that has let it come to this, headed up by the most like ridiculous caricature of Ronald Reagan. And Superman being basically like in subservience to him because he believes in the country and he believes in patriotism. And so having that be the final fight, and again, having it be that Batman is saying like, this specific mixture of kryptonite that we use to stun you, I could have made it stronger. I could have killed you.
Yeah.
So I won. I beat you. And so it's the idea that Batman is still... It makes no sense and it shouldn't be, but Batman, this guy, can still beat Superman. And that's the whole point of that. And I really, really like that.
Oh, I love all of those things, too. I just meant the path to getting there didn't play out as super necessary. I mean, you see later why it becomes necessary because of this amazing showdown and all the symbolism in that. But again, it was just like, as he's popping up here and there, it just seemed a little...
They're somewhat disconnected.
You know, when you're reading a trade and it's got like a backup issue or like an issue that's from like another story that ties in, it sort of felt like that to me, as opposed to like, oh, this is all one thing.
Oh, I get that a little bit, but it doesn't... I don't have that same feeling. To me, it felt like a very good progression. It gets more ridiculous and more off the rails, but...
Yes.
It's like a look at different types of Batman stories. Because you have Batman stories where he's a guy who fights people, and then, as I've said, I really like
an edgelord Joker.
No.
It's my favorite.
Like Dark Knight's Metal, or any of the stuff when Batman's in the Justice League. I'm like, they're going into outer space or crossing dimensions. The way I look at those stories is that they're nonsense, but they're a fun exercise in taking this otherwise grounded guy and throwing him into these situations. So it's applying the same logic of like, well, if this guy is just the best, he's a dude, but he's just the best and the smartest. What if we take that character and put him where he's fighting like a living planet?
Yeah.
Or a million different versions of himself that are bad from other worlds.
Yeah.
And so he fights the mutants. That's like Batman versus street crime. He fights the Joker. That's Batman versus his rogues gallery. He fights Superman. That's Batman versus all the other DC nonsense stuff. Each one fits a very specific purpose, and I really like it. And you wouldn't get your precious Batman versus Superman movie without that nonsense.
Yeah, again, I love the whole scene. It's great. I think what you touched on was perfect. Is like, oh yeah, I like these other stories. They are pure nonsense, but, and I'm like, yeah, I don't have a but with that. I like these stories because they are so grounded. So I think as they start to get, I said probably like 5 times on this episode, well, and here's where it starts to get a little weird, guys. That's just me going like, and this is where I start to care less about what's happening.
And you also kind of can't help but get ungrounded sometimes anyways, because 1, this is fiction. 2, Batman and Superman exist in the same universe.
Yeah.
So, like, you're trying to tell me, like, one, that I have to buy a trillionaire who fights crime and he's human. Okay, cool. Like,
There's nothing weird about that.
Yeah, that's kind of a pill to swallow already. And then additionally, there's and I mean, we're only talking about Batman and Superman because it also there's Hawkman and
Green
Plastic.
Arrow.
Yeah, I mean, everybody, all those people exist in this world, So, like, at some point, there has to be kind of a leap that gets it. Like, eventually, somebody has to wear a robot suit and fight an alien. It's like gonna get there.
Yeah.
And also what I do like is that somebody has to check Batman on stuff. Like, he can't just do what he wants all the time. And unfortunately, that person has to be Superman because...
I think if you just cut out Russia from this, then I would probably not even have that issue. I think that was the only thing that weirded me out because Reagan saying to Superman, like, yo, shit's fucked up over there. Like, are you going to handle this? Or are we going to handle this? I don't necessarily even mind that. I think that we sort of needed to have the nuke happen because you got to, for this fight to go down properly, you got to have Superman at least at a little disadvantage going into it, So I guess that is necessary in setting up the conflict.
And it throws the city into more disarray because they're about to have their looting and their rioting and
and
power.
Yep, the blackout.
Each other alive.
Yeah, we get
how
that
am I
great.
Get Batman on a horse if no EMP goes off.
Well, and we get that great scene of Gordon is trying to keep order in the streets, and then he's like, "Oh shit, that fire is coming from my apartment," and runs over there, and the place is burning down, and then we don't see Essen right away. So he has this imagining what's happening inside that building. He thinks he's just lost everything. And she's off screen calls his name. It's like, I mean, that's a great scene right there too. So we wouldn't get any of that depth without the nuke.
I don't know what I'm talking about. This is a note where I'm not sure why, but my note says, Gordon to random cat lady, hey, we need to put out the fires. So he must have just been talking to somebody like, you proactive human being on the streets.
You pick someone out of the crowd to do it.
Yeah. You, cat lady, you're well suited to fight this fire. Just hop on it. I'm delegating.
I still want to go back to the Russia thing because...
Oh, God damn it.
That's because of the emails.
Talk about my favorite part in the movie.
No, just because it's like... It sets this world. It shows you this world so much that
that it's bigger than Gotham.
Yeah, and that in the state of the world that the U.S. has this extreme conflict with Russia that's maybe going to come to a head. It's been made worse by the fact that Superman is at play, and that the leader of our side, the good side, is also completely inept and just a loony character. And the whole reason they don't want Batman around is because he makes them look bad, because he gets stuff done without killing people and steamrolling people. And Peter Weller, I mean, does such a good job in this. Every inspirational speech he gives to people, it elevates the already great writing of Frank Miller in the story of I follow that guy.
He's so perfectly cast. I was really happy when I saw they announced that he was playing him. Actually, that's funny. I mentioned RoboCop earlier, and I didn't mention that at the time. But yeah, man,
I didn't even make that connection.
He's so right for the part.
That's awesome.
There's another great little bit of dialogue as they're heading into the Superman fight. Carrie says, "Are you going to die tonight or what?" and he's like Captain America at the end of Endgame. He just looks over and goes, "Figure I will."
Yeah, that seems like an old Western thing to say.
Yeah, man. So good. And
maybe I will, partner.
And just, I mean, like you were saying, the quintessential line from the Superman fight of I want you to know I was the one who beat you. I mean, all that shit. He just makes it sing.
Yeah.
I love how crafty he gets in that too, because every one of these fights in this, he has to fight kind of differently. And not that he's very elevated from the mutant leader to Joker, but obviously by the time he gets to Superman, he's really got to step it up. But it's cool because it's still like a street fight with technology or something with I got a shock 'em extra, so I got the lamp post and the brain shock and all the stuff.
Pull all the power from the whole city.
Yeah, exactly. Like all the little extra thing, like it is still coming down to like punches and kicks and stuff like that. But the little extra tricks that he has to employ to take down a superhuman are cool.
Wait, this just occurred to me. You were like, yeah, I used the power from the whole city. I was like, wait a second. The whole power in the city is off.
It came back.
Oh, okay.
They flipped the switch and it came back.
Like, wait a minute.
Gotcha. It's like, wait.
I really like the Green Arrow aspect of the story because it's the same with that, like how I talk about the bigger universe nonsense. I really, really like that stuff anyway. And so just that little hint of like letting your imagination fill in what got us to this point. Like what it became in a world where they said, we don't want superheroes anymore. Kind of Watchmen-y.
Yeah.
We don't want superheroes anymore. And then Superman's like, I'm okay with that, and I'll be the enforcer on this.
I'll be the only superhero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll fight tanks. I'll fight the U.S.'s enemies. And Green Arrow just being a sillier Batman. It's like, no, I want to be a superhero. And then Superman rips his arm off.
Yeah,
like
apparently.
That happened somewhere in the past, and that's the world that they live in.
Is that what happened?
Yeah. I mean, it's gone, and there's mention of him paying the price, so yeah.
Huh, man. Amber has watched Arrow in the past, and so, he calls him Arthur or something, and Amber's like, oh, cool, but you don't really know who he is at first because he doesn't just, like, show up with a bow and arrow, so it's super obvious.
He's just armless guy.
Yeah, it's just armless guy, but I'm like, I don't know what happened, baby. I can't tell you. He's got a beard. He only has one arm. I don't know.
So it's actually...
If he shoots a bow and arrow, then he's Green Arrow. Otherwise, I have no idea who this hobo is.
It's actually Arthur Curry. Yeah. He's on land now. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. That was like, well, it could be a couple people. He's blonde.
That's wonderful.
Aquaman.
Yeah. It's Arthur Fleck.
Man, so much has changed. Frank Miller's a real kook, He's just got some weird stuff.
So then we have this very poetic moment where, Bruce is dying and Alfred apparently has a stroke or something. He grabs his arm as he's looking through those family photos and then knows that Bruce is off on this suicide mission and just like, well, it's time. I've always known I was going to have to burn this motherfucker to the ground. And then they die at the same time. I feel like Alfred's stroke is a little convenient, and I would have liked to see him walk away.
Convenient is the perfect word. It is. It is too much. Like, check this box off and check that. Okay, Alfred's dead. Good.
Yeah.
Got that out of the way.
Good.
And this great exchange with Gordon and Superman where he asks at the funeral, were you a friend? And he's like, I think so.
I don't really know.
And Gordon's like, sounds about right. I just, you never know where you stand. And this is two of the only people still alive who actually know Bruce and Batman are one and the same.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the end of that fight, I love that because it's clear to both of them that even though Superman's weak, Batman's not going to win.
Yeah.
Superman doesn't know what the game is, so he's like, well, you got to stop this because this is going to end bad for you. I don't want to hurt you. And Batman's just stalling for time. But then as he realizes that Batman is dying, his heart's giving out, he genuinely shifts to concern for him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I like that element of their relationship. Even though he's just doing whatever the government says, Batman's still his friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very weird. None of them, they don't really want to be there. They don't actually want to do that. There's, you feel like there is mutual respect. They just have different means to get to the same ends or something. Mm. And, neither of them wants to actually kill the other one. Superman hardly has to prove that he could kill Batman, and Batman does need to show that he could put up a really good fight against Superman anyways, and that he is a peer to the highest level that a human could be anyways, I guess. But they don't actually want to do that. Like, they're buddies.
That's the interesting thing is that there's the whole show of force of like, I got you, but it's also Superman could have killed you at any point prior to this and chooses not to. I mean, this is practically a hit for you. And Superman is in a schoolyard brawl. He thinks this is a brawl, and you think this is like a murder. So, it's like you're coming at it differently with your intentions.
Not on the same page.
Exactly.
Flat out.
Oh yeah, there was a great couple of Easter eggs that you mentioned the heartbeat. There's then also the heartbeat at the very end of the funeral. The Superman hears, and he's the only person, and just carries on with it. But it's just like the rising,
nice big winning smile, like,
yeah,
and a wink.
Yeah, it's just like the rising dirt at the end of BVS.
The bald eagle shows up,
you know,
carries him away.
Yeah, yeah, and then he comes. Yeah. We see him come back in the caves, leading the Sons of Batman. So he very much faked his death, like they drew on for The Dark Knight Rises. There was also this great scene where Carrie is in the whatever that fucking thing is. I think it's their version of the Batwing or whatever, and she says autopilot property damage, and it's taking out the cop cars and shit. And it reminded me of when the autopilot Batmobile, the Tumbler, is set to intimidate. At the Scarecrow gang. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. God, is that all my list? I think oh yeah, there was another one earlier where the cops see him reemerge for the first time when Batman comes back, and there's the young cop who's like shooting at him, right? And then there's the old cop who's like, "You're in for a show tonight, kid,"
I love that whole part.
Yeah, so good. Anything else you guys got in terms of before we head to pros and cons? I mean, I think most of these things we've already talked about. Mine are very brief. I'll just say amazing action, true to the characters, casting, and everything. Yeah.
Question mark?
I don't think there was any stone unturned so far. This has been a pretty epic episode.
I'm Ron Burgundy.
Yeah, I mean, the same thing. This is just, you can't talk about how good this is without talking about, in my mind, how good the original work is.
Yeah.
So it's both that the original Dark Knight Returns is just amazing, and it's a fundamental Batman story.
Yeah.
And so this is an excellent adaptation of that, both in terms of how it brings that story to life, but the touches that are unique to the film, which is like the music, the score, the way it's shot. I mean, it feels like, it's like RoboCop. It feels like an 80s action movie with the tone of it and the style. Just that synth score. Like, anytime that synth theme would start playing, it's like, this is perfect. This is so good.
Yeah.
The fact that Batman seems like he's always in pain or tired, it's just, you get that he's old. He seems old. Oh, and I could see it being more like, for you, like just a kind of a weird thing that's not explained, but I like that after Superman gets hit with the nuke, he's like emaciated and just looks like a zombie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the way he regains his strength is by sucking the life out of all the plant life around him, which it's weird, but I like that because it's easy to look at this character that's been around for 100 years with his pajamas and all that as like, he's a dude, but he's an alien. He's a weirdo alien, and you don't really quite know how he's supposed to work.
I didn't read that way at all. I thought he reached out and he touched that flower and it died because he's chock full of radiation. And then
that's what I thought when I read the book originally.
Everything dies around him. I think he just gets recharged being out in the sunlight.
When I read the book, that's kind of how I took it. But in this, you see him go to those things and he's all fucked up. And then they start dying and pulling him out. And then his body starts filling out again. And he starts his muscles get big and his face turns to normal.
But isn't that just him being like away from the blast and back in direct sunlight?
No, I think he's sucking the life out of that plant life.
Huh.
That's on my cons list, and I thought that there was like a literal, he gets his power from the sun. This is a sunflower, and it was really stupid.
Oh.
I don't think it's because it's a pun. I think it's just because plants store the sun's energy. It doesn't make sense, but I like how weird an alien is. It's like, he's not a human. He's not a person. He's a weird alien.
Not Goku. His power comes from the sun.
He could be Goku. That's like,
he's not. His power comes from the sun. That's why he's
Superman. It comes from the sun. Like, it gets shipped on a boat, and then he pulls out the power from the sun.
No, his planet had a different sun than our planet has, and that makes him strong.
And able to get
I'm with Evan on this.
Nukes and
able to hang out with bald eagles. No, man, it's a sunflower. What I do like though is that, I mean, Doomsday also showed that the Superman is a dude that could be so beaten down, so the nuke shows that that is almost the limit of his
It's like toughness, what he can endure.
Yeah, exactly. Like, maybe there's a couple stages, like, past a super huge nuke, but actually that gets you to the point of, like, now you're skin and bones because you can't handle, like, everything. Something, at least, like, an incredibly powerful singular act could put you, like, at death's door in an instant.
It's sort of like the Nightfall Bane trapping, where it's like, yeah, I'm going to let all these other villains fucking wear you out first, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, you got to do it all at once because you can't. I mean, how many times have you seen stuff in different things where, like, a person is given the chance to reach for a sunflower and regain all their strength? You can't give them the opportunity. You have to do it all in one fell swoop with some of these characters.
I'm just glad we can both agree that was a really cool scene and neat.
Ben loves flowers.
It's just awesome. It's a very faithful adaptation to the book, and it improves some things, and the score is great. It's just a good thing.
Yeah,
it's cool that it doesn't include any other. Like, its score is original and doesn't draw from other stuff.
I mean, this guy killed it on Under the Red Hood too. I mean, both of these had really great music.
Same dude.
Yeah, that's what I was saying at the top of the episode.
It's just a bunch of people's names, and I wait for the chance to introduce myself.
Wow.
I'm Ben Polanski.
Wow.
My pros are the CG fusion in this stuff looks way better in other things. I know it's newer than other things, and that's part of it, but also just the styling in general can really serve to separate those two forms of animation. And in this, all the CG elements fit really well and stuff. In the fight scenes, they use a cool effect where they sort of blur the frames for a moment, so a person will get punched in the ribs, and it's like a boof because it looks super concussive, and they actually, like,
shook the camera.
Exactly. If there was a camera, then the camera gets shook. One of my favorite things about Watanabe, who did Cowboy Bebop and these different iconic cartoons, is that he does what you said, Ben, earlier, where it's almost as if either the camera stays in one place so that you can witness all of the action, or the camera follows the action the whole time. You don't have mini cuts and, like, panels of a person getting punched in the face. You get to see the whole thing, So if he's fighting the mutant boss and it's punch, punch, Batman, and then punch, punch, mutant, you get to witness the whole thing, like all the exchanges and all the returns.
As you're saying that, I'm just picturing that fight scene from, like, the first or second episode of Cowboy Bebop. They're on Mars and they're in the cafe, and it's the same thing with just, like, excellently choreographed animation and a shot that lets you appreciate it.
Yeah, solid. I mean, if they're dancing back and forth and they're worked to one side of to the left side and the right side, and just all the exchanges, you get to see all of it. I love this Joker's look. This whole, like, shoulder pad future 80s Joker is like iconic to me as any other form of him. It's got pleated slacks and, like, a huge white jacket and stuff. I think it's super cool. My really only cons are that I don't love the Joker's voice in this, and I don't love Gordon's voice in this either. They're not my favorite. I think that Weller does a super good job as Bruce, and everybody else is totally cool to me, but I don't care for those other voice actors in this.
I didn't remember Gordon standing out as being out of place, but yeah, the Joker casting it just didn't sell it to me at all.
I like that actor a lot. He was like a main antagonist in Lost. He's a good actor, and I could see not liking this portrayal of the Joker because it's weird, but I kind of like it because it really played up the whole, like, homoerotic element, even more so than there's less overtness than there is in the book, but just his voice, the way he does it, seems very gay to me. Not in a bad way.
No, it's good. It has gay elements.
Yeah, to me, he kind of looks like a lesbian comedian from the 80s.
Typical Joker. Yeah, I mean, and also that's only because if the animated series is our, like, end all be all for everything to me, then everything that I watch is like, is this even comparable? Does this even get close? And so Peter Weller's like, yeah, you sound like you're a gruff old dude, and that totally fits. But then some of these other characters, I like Gordon's voice sometimes was a little like the old whistling man from Family Guy or something, where he's like it's a little too high and he's trying to give some speech.
What
and I was
do you
like,
mean?
This is I was like, dude, not inspired.
Old-timey prospector.
Yeah, that cat lady isn't going to want to put out this fire. Like, come on, guys. Like, nobody. I can't get behind this.
I got
What is
some
that?
popsicles in the cellar.
Oh! Otter Pops. Shout out to our sponsor, Otter Pops. The only shitty part is they only ship them to Sam's house because Sam's the one who always makes everything.
Yeah, man. It's like if I produce the show and then we got to do this over the phone because we're social distancing. It just means I get all the cool perks, you know?
Yeah, it makes sense. I don't want to share my popsicles because I don't want to contaminate you guys.
The joke's
Super
on you.
Convenient.
They haven't made Otter Pop since the 70s, so you're eating popsicles that are 40 years old.
Actually, you know what's wild?
Those are like Twinkies.
Dude, so we just, we got these the other day and opened it up and I was like, what the fuck? They are all just ice colored. They got rid of the food coloring. And they're all like natural juice now and shit. I'm like, no shit. They try to
They
make.
taste good.
Oh yeah, they're great. Like,
Yeah.
I'm an ice cream person and I hate the heat. And like, I don't know, they're just magic. Like you take a bite of it and you're like, wow, I'm cooler now. I don't get it. They're awesome.
Are they like the OG flavors, but natural?
Yeah.
So blue.
Tastes more like fruit. More like fruit, less like.
I mean, I haven't had it in so fucking long. It still tastes like a popsicle. I don't know. Like,
I like that old Chappelle. Like, I want that purple stuff.
yeah.
I don't want grape flavor. Give me the purple.
Yeah. What is juice?
What the fuck is juice, man?
What is juice?
Okay, so let's finish this motherfucker off. So yeah, I'm with you on the Joker casting for cons.
Yes.
I
did it.
I never loved the invented slang, which we already talked about, and that's really the end of my stuff. I mean, it's a great fucking story. It's a great adaptation. Ben, you got any cons?
Very minor. I think I don't like the CG, but it's just because I really don't like. I can't think of a single example of like a mixed medium CG and animation thing where I liked that. It does look good. It looks better than a lot of the other stuff, but it just.
At all, or in the Batman universe?
At all, for the most part. Because it looks so jarring to me. And as I say, it is better than it has been. And some of the shots look really cool, like when they look up at the Gotham Life building. It looks enormous, and that was really cool. But in general, I just don't like it.
I think it's great that both of you guys brought that up because it literally never even occurred to me the whole time I was watching it.
Well, I mean, in my mind, that means that it was a good fusion. I mean, either you're the kind of person who doesn't know what you're looking at, or it looks so good.
Yeah, that's the first one. He doesn't know what
he's
No taste.
Okay. Yeah, gotcha.
Ignorant.
All right, so really fast, because we got to do another episode after this. The trifecta, detective.
He's pretty detective-y.
I guess. He knows
How?
some stuff.
He solves things in his head. He's not really doing science a lot.
He knows how to fight Superman, so he knows something.
Yeah, he planned all that out. He knew that an EMP went off.
He knows how to ride a horse.
Yeah, so low marks in the detective category. I thought about
that's not what we're saying.
he goes to
Average marks.
the general who sold weapons to the mutant gang, and it's like you never showed how he found that out or anything. Like you just keep showing us stuff that he's doing, but none of the like a math test. They're like, show your work.
No.
Yeah, I know.
He solved the two-faced riddles. Like, was there another car at the scene? Was it all beat up? Oh, that's like he has some deduction there.
That's true.
I forgot to say that
Nope, we're past that.
No, I think it's in the first movie because there's like two smoke bomb fighting goons scenes, but I think it's in the first one with the helipads and the bombs and Hush / Two-Face. And that whole fight scene where he's taking the dudes out amongst all the smoke. I know that that's a thing that we see a lot, but it's super dope that you like see these silhouettes, and the silhouettes get like, they look kind of solid and they get partially engaged and then they disappear, and then it happens to another one like boom, boom, and the whole thing seems like it's from one dude's perspective, like holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. Just like watching this stuff get taken out.
Dude,
it's cool.
The action from the get-go is so good. Like all the action shit, you just feel like from the moment this shit kicks off, you're like, oh yeah, this is the shit I wanted, you know.
It's cool too because you create an action scene devoid of action because there's no visibility, you know. So like
again, that's that Keaton
you
shit
can make
though.
it cool without showing anything.
I love the shadowy shit. That's so good.
And they convinced me so much that a man that big could move that fast,
Yep,
cover that much ground so quickly. But I'm glad you brought up that scene because there are two things there that are kind of fascinating to me. Is the fact that even though he doesn't say it, it very much seems like he repurposed the Scarecrow fear toxin to use against that last guy, at least some of them. Where he's like, he starts seeing just the gargoyle-y thing. He's like, what am I seeing? He's like, your worst nightmare. It'll last about an hour.
True.
And then the next detective-y thing is that when the bomb is there, he just sprays it with like nitroglycerin or something like that. I like that we didn't get a scene of him like pulling out wires.
Not nitroglycerin. Nitroglycerin makes explosions.
What's the thing that the Terminator?
Liquid nitrogen.
Liquid nitrogen. There we go.
Yeah, okay.
Liquid nitrous oxide. But I like that. So he looks at the bomb, and then he just sprays it with that stuff, and that stops the timer. I like that both because he thought to do that. He's like, I'm just going to spray it off. And the fact that we didn't get a scene of him going, well, I better disassemble it and put the wires to this and this and that. It's like he thinks to himself, well, there's a reasonable chance that because of the way this timer works, I can just freeze it.
It's like what Ev said earlier about, I think you said jujitsu being kind of the most economical way, the most efficient way to solve the problem, not just acting before you think about it, but going like, okay, what's the shortest amount of steps to get this problem out of my way so I can solve the next one?
My dad would always talk to me in the past, not as if my dad gave me a bunch of lessons and things in this regard. But
yeah, fuck you, Don.
It's not as if my dad gave me anything at all in this
Don't get penisy, kid. He raised you.
Don't get penisy. No, my dad's incredible. What I mean is Dad never condoned fighting or anything like that. But Dad knows some stuff, and one thing that he would always talk about is like in fights, if this is a real life thing, you want to end things as quickly as possible. And that doesn't mean that like you have a gun or a rocket launcher or anything like that. You know, you need to like hit critical points. And so that's how I always feel about Batman. Like what you want is to be as uninjured as possible. And the longer the thing goes on, the more likely you are to be injured. So, you know, when Batman's talking about like 65 tons of force to his collarbone,
I separated the occipital nerve from the eye.
Exactly. That's because he knows stuff, because he would do the right thing. You know, you would want to incapacitate somebody really quickly. Same thing with the bomb. Like, you got to make split-second decisions. You have to do the right thing the first time around, and you have to do it right now because time is of the essence. And obviously, in different things that we've seen, like Batman gets shot, Batman gets stabbed, Batman gets cut, you know? And nobody wants that. Like, he is a human dude. He doesn't want any of that crap. Yeah. So the faster that he can handle stuff, then it obviously benefits everybody. That part too with the gun is, I never thought about the whole fear toxin thing, but just walking up on a gun pointed at your chest is like the ballsiest thing that a person could do. Like that,
especially after beating all those other people.
Yeah. If you want to talk about getting crazy, that's...
Let's get wild. You guys want to get wild?
Yeah. You guys want to talk about getting silly.
It's like,
you want to see Loose? I'll show you Loose.
Getting silly on a helipad.
This is every single episode we got you guys misquoting the fucking 89 shit and then the edgelord thing. Every episode.
I want to start making some t-shirts with some... Let's get crazy, kids.
All right. Ninja, I think we already covered. Stealthy, brutal.
Yeah, he seems less like a ninja, more like the most skilled street fighter I've ever seen before.
No, he seems like a ninja to me. His first comeback scene is him like reaching out of the shadows and pulling people in.
Yeah.
No, he seems like a street fighter to me.
Or we get that.
Your description of him in that rooftop smoke fight scene is totally ninja to me. Like using fear and intimidation. The first scene in the building, all the scenes where he takes people out in the building, he's a ninja. He's not a street fighter. I disagree with you.
The scene where he first shows up and the person in the mini alley like pulls the lady and she like drops her bag and like there's a huge ketchup explosion or something. Somehow him being behind that like exact door with the exact window right where that guy was going to pull the lady in seemed like really improbable to me. Like, how will
Was
you
more or less probable than he carried a huge bat with him to that other apartment. To then, when the door slowly opened, he would throw the giant bat into the room to distract them.
What was that one we read where the penguin had? Oh no, it was in Batman Returns when he had the bats in his umbrella.
Yeah.
How long were they in there?
The bats love umbrellas. They love hanging in there.
But talking about the ninja stuff, I mean, this is the origin, the basis for that most iconic on-screen Batman fight, the warehouse scene in BVS. I mean,
that's my favorite.
everything about it. Like even when he's like punching through the wall and rips the guy through it, and the guy's like, I'll do it. I'll kill him, and he's like, I believe you. Just fucking like, I mean, the whole shit is just a shot-for-shot remake of this amazing Frank Miller sequence.
Ben, you've seen Ong Bak, right?
I've seen parts of Ong Bak.
All right. Well, that's how this whole thing feels to me. Like, same kind of thing. Like, everything, kung fu movies are full of, like, really frivolous maneuvers where things seemingly aren't anything, and you punch a guy a million times, and the goons come back forever and ever, and you just keep fighting them. But Ong Bak is, like, full of things like that, where you have, like, a horde of... what makes it cool is you have, like, 50 dudes, but all 50 of those guys only get punched one time.
They get kneed in the head as hard as possible.
It's not like 10 guys that you fight for 5 minutes. It's 50 guys that only get punched once because you do the right thing like every single time.
Yeah.
That's how the warehouse fight is, kind of, to me. Like, you would only want to punch their kneecaps in. You would like only want to do what really hurts.
It's some Kill Bill shit.
For sure.
The crazy 88.
Yeah. Especially if you're fighting a ton of people, why would you want to, you wouldn't want to fart around, I have to beat up all these people. It's a long day ahead of me. I'm going to put a full shift on these goons.
Oh, man. Got to work, and it's like, what do I got on the agenda? Oh, man. I got to beat up how many motherfuckers? Oh.
I'm going to break some femurs.
All right.
Stab some eyes.
Let's get started.
I took my lunch break late because of all these fools.
So trauma, I'm going to kind of answer for everyone and say not relevant.
He's old. He's just old.
It's relevant in that...
Shut up, man.
We see that he's still haunted by their murder at the beginning. That's part of what forces him back into it. He'll just never get over it. That's part of it.
His mustache just disappears. Where's your mustache?
He shaved it in a fugue state.
I mean,
someone stole my mustache.
It'd be weirder if it went the other way around.
It suddenly appeared.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What I want to know is who, because we're talking about how super dope Batman is. I mean, two things.
Oh, he is.
Yeah. How super dope he is. So two things. Either who is good enough to steal his mustache, or two, what if that's the kind of tricky games that Superman just likes to play on Batman? like if he could kill him at any time, but he's like, this is just a little reminder. I can steal your mustache whenever you grow it out.
Is that like a got your nose for superheroes?
Yeah.
All right, ratings.
I'd say it's a 5. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's not like, with a number rating system, I don't feel like I like this as much as like a Phantasm or Under the Red Hood. But
I mean, it's arbitrary. It's just how you feel.
Yeah.
It's a 5.
I think, for sure. I've thought about that too because I can't. I know that I've done that. Same with the Red Hood. Same with Ninja Turtles. Same with Phantasm or something. Like, I can't compare them to each other. Are they just individually awesome or not? And so I think that these are 5s also. It's been funny because we did Phantasm early on, so it was like, yeah, cool. We didn't set the bar high, but we just happened to watch something super dope super early on.
Yeah.
And so everything since then, though I think that this is the end of it. I think that it's like Phantasm, Red Hood, Ninja Turtles, these guys. I think these are the best of the animated movies, I'm pretty sure. But every time we do the last one, then I'm like, man, I forgot how super dope this one was. And then I haven't watched these guys in so long. Then I watch these, I'm like, shit biscuits. They are also equally as good.
I guess that's the danger of a number system, because another way to look at it too is like, how many of these are we recommending that other people go check out and read? And like this one, I would 100% recommend.
Oh yeah.
I mean, anyone who likes Batman or action movies, this is like, go out and watch it right away.
All-Star Batman and Robin. Go buy every copy.
You should only read that if you really love Frank Miller or you just want to read every Batman thing. You can probably skip it otherwise.
No, I don't think that's the reason
nipples.
at all. I think the reason to get All-Star is for Jim Lee.
Yeah, for sure.
And Scott Williams and Alex Sinclair, man. But the rating on this one for me, I'm just going to give it a 4.5. I think that it's awesome. I just think that the second half isn't quite as awesome as the first half to me. In broadest terms, that's the only thing I would knock it for, is that it's a well-earned 3-hour movie. No issues with that at all. Just, it's really, really good.
You just don't love communism, so its inclusion is like...
She doesn't like gays, so Joker really bothers
Yeah, men wearing lipstick is not dope to me.
Yeah, Joker's never worn lipstick before. That'd be so strange. That's the biggest creative leap in this whole thing.
Frank Miller is insane.
Yeah, but you never see him smear it on, though. It's just always there already.
Who's calling you? You don't have to. Don't pretend. You're calling yourself to seem like you're popular.
Yeah, it's like, hey, Ange, if I'm in here for too long, will you call me so I can go take a piss?
I rented this on demand. So I knew it was 2 movies, but on demand they tag all the special features at the end.
Nice.
So I thought I was about to watch a 6-hour movie. Oh my God. What's the other 3 hours of this?
What did I forget?
This is Robin. Thanks for checking out the Bat Fan Addict podcast with Sammy Warm Hands.
It's so good to hear those guys on there. That, of course, is Lauren Lester, the voice of Robin. We had Kevin Conroy at the top of the show, but it's extra nice hearing the two of them together. That's really exciting. We've been seeing some of you guys taking the screenshot, posting to your stories, spreading the word. We really appreciate that. You can also give us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. Only takes a few seconds. Just get the word out about the show. Still trying to grow. We've got a lot of episodes already recorded up the sleeve. Every other Friday we drop, or Thursday at midnight if you want the preview on it. We're going to come back with another Frank Miller classic. This time we're diving into the original work, Batman Year One. Stay tuned.